What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you stopping by, spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. Today I sort of wanted to talk to you, explain to you this experience that I had recently with communicating with myself. Okay? And that might sound strange, but you'll understand what I'm saying here in a few minutes. Like, somehow it's like everything is meant to be. Every single experience that I have is related to every other experience and can allow me, if I so choose, to achieve some sort of deeper insight into my life, into my reality, into myself. Okay? So I was just sort of like surfing the web the other day on my phone, and I came across this article that caught my attention for some reason. I don't know why. And I clicked on it and I read it. Now I'm going to link in the description the article if you want to go read it. But essentially what the article is talking about is that there is evidence and studies that show around 40 to 50,000 years ago, all across Europe, the first migrating human beings to set foot in Europe often frequently mated with Neanderthals, right? And that as a result of this, after the extinction of the Neanderthal, there is a remnant of Neanderthal DNA that exists, that is alive and well within the modern human genome. Okay? Certain individuals possess around 2 to 4% of Neanderthal DNA, and it's a lot more people than we would first have thought. It seems like this was a much more widespread and common occurrence than we ever thought was possible in the past. Now we are discovering that this genetic remnant of the Neanderthal lives on, especially in people like me. So I read this article. It was very interesting. I sort of stored it away in my subconscious mind and forgot about it. Then a couple days later, I have this situation take place. I have this gross miscommunication with my wife that didn't really go well, okay? So it was sort of a stressful day. The entire day was stressful for both of us, right? And I have this bad habit of like cursing in regular conversation. And so in a stressful situation, when I curse, like when my wife is stressed out and I'm stressed out and I'm cursing, it sounds like I'm more upset than I am. It sounds much more personal. It sounds much more like an attack. It sounds a lot more condescending. It sounds like I'm cursing at my wife, according to my wife. To me, it doesn't feel like that. Like this is just normal to me, right? But it upset her. Like what happened was the car wouldn't start and she was scheduled to go pick up something that she purchased from a website like Facebook Marketplace or something like this. And the car wouldn't start and she had prepaid for the item. And when she told me she prepaid, I was like, oh, damn, you already sent the fucking money. And she was like, don't talk to me like that. And I'm like, yo, I didn't mean anything by it. Like, that's got to be like your feelings. Like that, I'm not trying to say it. And she hung up the phone on me, right? And I was like, what the heck, dude? Like, that's her problem. I was trying to empathize. I was trying to say, like, damn, you already sent the fucking money. Like, that makes this already sticky situation even stickier. Unfortunately, it was lost in translation. It didn't come across like that, right? It just didn't come across like that. She thought I was, like, upset with her or, like, calling her stupid, insulting her. Like, oh, you already sent the fucking money. Like, that was dumb. But that's not really how I meant it. But unfortunately, that's how it came across. You know? But I was like, I didn't see that at first. I was like, bro, that's her problem. You know what I'm saying? She's going to have to deal with that, and hopefully we'll get over it. You know what I'm saying? But I was a little stressed out from the miscommunication. I was a little irritated, and I'm like, I'm going to go out and smoke a cigarette, you know? And so I pulled this cigarette out of my pack, and then this voice pops up in my head, and it's like, Neanderthal. And I'm like, listening. I'm like, what was that? And it says, Neanderthal. And it says, you know how certain people may refer to another person as a Neanderthal? I'm like, yeah, I get that, you know? And it's like, well, we can see now that remember that article you just read about the Neanderthal DNA and stuff like this? We can see that because of the 2 to 4% of the genetic remnant of the Neanderthal, that in these individuals that possess the Neanderthal DNA, it's possible that this manifests itself as Neanderthal-like tendencies or habits of thought and behavior, meaning not very much thought. There's not very much conscious attention and focus being paid to these areas of life like this. I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And it's like, well, it might actually be, in a certain sense, it could be considered almost a compliment to be considered a Neanderthal, because the Neanderthal is like just this wild thing. Like, we think of the Neanderthal as this wild thing. Like, it has power, but this power is sort of like unbridled. It's uncontrolled. It's wild and chaotic. So it causes itself a lot of harm. It's not aware of what it's doing and the consequences of its actions. And that's what we mean when we call somebody a Neanderthal. But the fact is, the Neanderthal is a powerful being, right? It's just that that power is uncontrolled. The Neanderthal was unable to control that power, hence extinction. They drove themselves to extinction. They just couldn't get it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see that. Like, yeah, the Neanderthal was powerful, like wielding this wild, raw, chaotic magic. You know what I mean? That's just powerful, but unrefined. And the voice is like, exactly. And it says, I'm glad you can see it like that. Now, I hope this doesn't cause you too much offense, but you are like a Neanderthal. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, you've kind of explained it to me, like I can see like how I'm closer to the origin. I'm much more linked to spirit. I'm much more in tune with my emotions. I'm much more in tune with nature. Like this, I'm like closer to the prototype man. It's almost as if I am a descendant of Adam himself. And it's like, yes, great, but also you're dumb. Also, you are like a Neanderthal. You don't think about certain things. You don't consider anything but yourself. Sometimes you are like a Neanderthal. Unrefined in certain respects. It says, magically speaking, like Dumbledore would say, words are our most inexhaustible source of magic. But if you cannot control your tongue, if you cannot control your mouth, it will get you into trouble. It will get you into situations you do not want to be in. You must learn to control your tongue. You must learn to refine your sense of language, to become more proficient with your language. A person who is proficient with the magical power of language is capable of accomplishing great things, sometimes terrible things. Just ask Hitler. It's important to understand the power of language and the tongue. It's important to understand this magic, right? And in order to refine this Neanderthal-like aspect of your personality, you must, like a scientist, study the Neanderthal. You must subject the Neanderthal part of you to the strictest observation in order to learn about it, in order to learn what it knows about the magic, what it knows that it doesn't know that it knows, so that you, the one who knows, may know and refine it and use it and control it and be the master of it, rather than being mastered by it and taken over and running yourself off the cliff into extinction. And it's this very poetic, strange language, this inner voice is telling me that I'm like a Neanderthal and that I'm wrong in this situation with my wife and that she is right. Maybe I should work on my language and stop being so out of control. I need to learn some self-control, some self-discipline. It's just like no one can tell me that. Like my wife can't tell me that. You can't tell me that. Only I can have that realization. Only my inner self can tell me that in a way that won't cause my feathers to be ruffled. That won't cause me to run and hide crying with my feelings hurt. That won't hurt my pride. You know what I'm saying? And it will allow me to actually learn. Or whatever. Anyway, man. I just wanted to share that with you. Until next time, I hope you continue to free your mind.